Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Digitally Diverse, part of the NTP Podcast, where we do a deep dive into the careers of some of Australia's best designers. So today we have the privilege of having Wal Gedeon. Did I say that right?
Wal Gedeon is fine, yeah.
Where Wal is a product design leader and delivery lead for VMware Tanzu Labs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So I would just love to dive straight in, and I am really curious to get a bit of an overview of your career to date, your journey today. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, I mean, my career right now is being a dad. I'm on paternity leave, so which has been
Thank
lots.
you for fitting us in, by the way.
No. Thank my partner. She's taking care of our little girl, like while we have this chat. But no, thanks for having me. So God, where do I start? Do I do the long version or short version?
Go long. Fill
Go
it.
long,
Yeah.
go long.
Give
Okay.
us the short story long.
Yeah, maybe I'll start at the now and work my way backwards, and you can cut me off if I rant for too long. So. Okay, where am I now? So I'm with VMware Tanzu Labs. At the moment, my role is delivery lead. So I help run the business, work with our teams, our customers on a variety of wicked problems. We can dig into that a little bit later. But my background is primarily in design. Before my role as a delivery lead, product designer. So I spent quite a few years doing that at Tanzu Labs, working in product design before moving into this sort of leadership role. So working with customers, working on a wide variety of industries and different products. So full stack, everything from user research all the way through to sort of the more detailed interaction design and delivery and iterating and stuff like that. Also, the last few years have been trying to become a little bit more T-shaped. So diving into product management as well, where I can and where the opportunities arose, which has just been an amazing journey because I just love building stuff, love creating experiences, love building products, getting feedback, talking to people, hearing about their problems. And yeah, I've been with labs in Australia for about, God, it's coming up to 3 years now, I think. Prior to that, I was at Woolies X. So I had a little bit of a pit stop. So I've done 2 stints with labs, but in between those stints, I was at Woolies X. So I had the privilege of working with the online fulfillment team. So Trent and Co over there in the teams that take care of everything post someone making an online order. Had a great time there while I was in Sydney. So I'm back in Brisbane now, working remotely with my team, but I was in Sydney for a bit and got to work on the picking app that the Woolies team uses, which was super fun. So you see the people walking around with the green carts in the Woolies stores. I helped redesign that app for that team, which was amazing. And then before that was at Labs in London. So I started over there in 2019. I think you and I might have been in London around the same time, possibly.
Probably.
Didn't cross paths.
Bit of a crossover there.
Yeah, something like that. And yeah, that's sort of been the last, God, how many since that's around 2019. So the last sort of 3 or 4 years of what I've been up to. Before that, I led design over at Goodlife health clubs. So was in the health and fitness space for a bit. Definitely touching all of the spectrum of design in that role. So everything from digital through to campaign, content creation, just the whole, everything you could possibly do. So, and then, I mean, before that, I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go, but probably one of the biggest things that I did sort of alongside design all of the years was, so the last 20 odd years, worked as a DJ as well and wrote music. So yeah, I've really tasted the rainbow of jobs. I've worked in nightclubs. I've been a chef. I've been an accountant's assistant. I've done all of the bits, but now I've somehow found my way into digital product, which I absolutely love.
Love that. I think when you have a background in other fields and other industries, you can really pick and choose what kind of learnings you then take into your current job, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're getting little snippets along the way that you're kind of bringing to the next bit and to the next bit, and yeah, it's all kind of contributing to where I am now. So it's great.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Tanzu Labs. Can you fill us in on your current role there at the moment? I know that you're on leave right now, but I'd love to hear what kind of problems you solve with them.
Yeah, of course. So I'll give you the pitch, like the not too salesy pitch, but so yeah, Tanzu Labs. So we've been around for about 30 odd years. We're originally with Pivotal Labs. So I think maybe some of the audience might remember us as Pivotal, but now we've been rebranded to Tanzu Labs as part of VMware. Essentially, we're a software development consultancy. So we work with large organizations to solve wicked problems in the digital space and build software. The unique thing about what we do is that we work with our customers to build software together. So we do this blended model of delivery and enablement. So customer has we've got this product we want to transform or rebuild, we'll work with their team not just to build it, but to kind of coach them on our way of building software, taking all our methodologies and practices and really getting them to think a little bit differently, which is cool.
Mhm.
So, we work with everyone from enterprise, healthcare, government, fintech, even non-for-profit. We do a real broad mix. So mostly large enterprise organizations. And my role as a delivery lead now was a designer in the team, but moved into a leadership role. So I'm more at the business level. So I sort of work with our customers as we start to get them to come and work with us. So talk to them about their problems. Having a designer background is amazing for that because that's what I love to do as a designer. It's like, what's the problem? What's it worth? Should we solve this problem? Is there another one that we should solve? So talking to customers, finding opportunities for us to work with them together, as well as kind of managing those projects with the team. So managing them with the customers and the team on making sure they're successful. Hey, what's blocking us? What's stopping us? How things and what's going well? And then all the way through to like managing teams. So I've got a few reports. I work with a couple of software engineers. Also manage I manage most of our product management practice here in ANZ. And yeah, that's mostly my day to day. From a problems perspective, a lot of it is like at the moment has been a lot of like application transformation or modernization. So maybe a company's got or an organization's got like some old software or some old tech. And it's just not doing the job that it needs to do. It's slow, poor user experience. It's hard to make changes or ship new features because of the way it's been built or it's been around for so long. So a lot of the time we're working with them to kind of rebuild, redesign those things in a lean and iterative way so they can get the new bits into the users and they can go, hey, this works or it doesn't work and we can change or we can keep delivering and stuff like that. So yeah, really, really fun work, really challenging, like wicked problems, like really challenging things. But I think that's what excites me and the team about what we do. So hopefully that wasn't too salesy.
No, that was a really great overview. And I mean, do you folks work mostly with like larger, like enterprise sized businesses, or is there a bit of a range with that?
I mean, in my experience, it's been mostly with larger organizations. So most of the people we work with are organizations, so like enterprise, maybe ASX listed or government organizations. So really big orgs. But at the same time, I've also done some non-for-profit work as well. So work with a very small organization. I'll give you an example. Healthy Heads, they're a non-for-profit that helps the well-being of truck drivers and logistics workers in Australia. And I help build an app to try and help those people manage their stress and well-being and health and stuff like that. So, but the majority of who we work with are those sort of larger organizations, though.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, what a great initiative. And you mentioned that you started with them when you were over in the UK. Like, what was the main reason why you wanted to come back after you were at Woolies X?
I mean, I wouldn't have left if COVID hadn't even hit, right? I think we would have probably stayed there and, we just came back to Australia to be closer to family through all of those things. So, and what brought me back, when I came back originally, was to start to be a bit more of a switch hitter. So product design, product management. So I wanted to do a little bit more. And my manager at the time was like, hey, I'll find some opportunities so you can flex into the PM space too. So, which is just satisfies my need for learning and growth and doing different things. As you mentioned, I've done a lot of stuff over the years and I still like to be a generalist. So I think that's what brought me back, but just also the people. Like we've got an amazing culture. The folks that I work with, the team are just brilliant. Like they're very, very, very good at what they do, but they're just good people too. And I really, not saying that anyone else that I was working with weren't, but I think that's what just drew me back was that culture. We follow these principles of, do the right thing, keep it simple and always be kind. And everyone lives by that every day, especially that always be kind. And I think that's just one of the reasons. But also consulting, I guess, as a consultant, you get to do a lot of different things, which is good because you get to, you have diversity and range and variety of what you're working in. Maybe you don't get to see everything through to its maturity, like you do when you're working in an organization like Woolies, etc. But God, there's just so many reasons. But yeah, glad I made the decision and amazing support as a new dad. I've been on paternity leave now for about 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So, which is just,
Oh,
brilliant.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, what does a typical project look like for you folks?
Oh God. So many different ways to answer the question.
Yeah, loaded question.
Maybe I can give you an example of like what I guess an ideal scenario, I guess, for us is, and we're pretty versatile, but the way we structure our teams, like we follow that balanced team model. The tripod, I think, is you're seeing a lot more in the industry. So rather than those
Mm-hmm.
bigger team sizes, we have product designers, or product designer, product manager, and a couple of software engineers. So
Mm-hmm.
a tripod of roles, feasibility, viability, desirability, and we would work with a client in that same model. So, say we were working on redesigning a podcasting app, like the one we're using right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's old and it's slow and it doesn't work. The company that we were working with, they bring a PM, a designer, and some software engineers, and we would work in like a pairing model. So, two PMs trying to solve a problem together, two designers, four engineers working in pairs, and we would just run at the problem together. So we're doing that combination of building something so the context is shared between both the client and us. So we're not, I think traditional consulting where we build the thing and we go, here's the thing, and they're like, oh, hang on a second, how do we get here, and how do the bits work under here? Where we want to make sure the IP is there and they have that context so they can continue the work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's normally how we would staff a project, but it depends on the problem we're trying to solve. Like if it's more technical, it might be more PM and engineering led. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the customer doesn't have a design team, they're still building out that practice, so we might help them hire designers. Maybe they don't have a product management function, so they bring, well, more often than not, they'll bring a subject matter expert, so someone that has a lot of context about the problem space. Maybe they're in operations and they learn to be a product manager. Software developers generally come from a software development background, but yeah, that's generally how we work. And then, depending on the technology that we're building or whatever it is, we just kind of run at the problem and try and find the simplest path to get a bit of value into the user's hands so they can use it, and the business can actually reap those rewards. So but yeah, it is a bit of a loaded question because it totally depends. Totally depends.
Yeah, definitely on the client, on the project, I guess on the timeline as well. And you mentioned before as well that there is, obviously the build aspect of what you folks do, but then also like working with and teaching the client, and working with the client on how to best roll it out and how to utilize it. Can you tell us a little bit how that works for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest way of talking about it is like we follow this, I guess, process of I do, we do, you do.
Mm-hmm.
When we work together with customers, and when a lot of them come in with a lot of great experience, right? They just, they've been doing it for a long time, particularly designers. They come in, they're quite, they've been doing it for a while. They're nobody UX, no UI research,
Mm-hmm.
but in those scenarios, I guess we try and do a little bit of I do, which is just showing like our way of doing it, and trying something a little bit different. And a lot of the time, it just comes down to mindset change. But we might show them how we would do something, and so they can kind of see it, particularly if it's someone new. And then, as they feel confident, they've seen how we do things, and we start to get something going or start to deliver something. We would maybe work into a more of a we do. So we play a bit of a co-pilot pilot role. So as an example, like I'll use design as the example. So we've kicked off an engagement or a project and we're doing user research. Maybe I'd run, or one of my designers would lead the user research session. So they'd be the one running the interviews to kind of show best practices. And then maybe after a couple of user interviews, like, hey, how do you feel confident about running that interview yourself? And then they would play the lead researcher role, and one of our team would play the sort of the co-pilot role, the supporting, and then they'd be there to give feedback. And then the goal is by the end is that person can do the you do where they're just leading, and then they can teach other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the ideal scenario. I mean, it's different for everyone. Some people are way more down the path as far as their experience goes, but then some people are a little bit more green. So it really depends. But yeah, that's generally how we do it. It's like, we'll show you a little bit how we do it. Hey, do you want to have a try of doing it this way? Keep doing stuff. And then the ideal scenario is like they can be confident doing that thing and then hopefully coach other people within their organization about those things.
Yeah, I do hear quite a lot that one part of consulting is actually the build and, figuring out the solution. But then also another problem is the client and the end users actually going to pick it up. So that implementation of like getting them involved throughout the whole process, I feel like would be a really great way to just get that onboarding really, really seamless and being able to almost have an evangelist on your side from the get-go.
Oh, 100%. And I think I've written a few articles about this as well. Like it's not just you mentioned like people being onboarded and involved in the process. And that's not like the designer that designing the thing. One thing is all about the whole team getting involved in that process. So engineers sitting in a user research interview session, listening in, hearing the problems that they're trying to, that they're having in their day to day with the way they currently do things. Because when they're actually developing the thing, they really get what they're actually working on and why they're doing it, and have that sense of ownership. And often, honestly, sometimes when it comes to ideation, the engineers are the ones that are coming in and have some of the best ideas. It's having all of the customer team or all of the team involved in that process, contributing to it end to end. So yeah, we're a really big advocate for that. It isn't sort of the big boss saying build this thing. It's like, hey, everybody contribute and work through it together and let the users kind of inform the direction of where things go.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great way of doing things. I guess I would love to kind of take a step back for my next question, in that I'd love to hear a bit more of your like education background. Did you go to university, or how did you kind of land yourself in this tech world?
Oh, I love telling this story because it's it's so not true. I feel like it's the most non-traditional path to product design that anyone's ever taken, but maybe it's not so uncommon. So as I mentioned before, like before design, I did a lot of DJing, and so I basically was running my own business. And so part of that was, you've got to wear so many hats. You've got to be the accountant. You've got to be the bookkeeper. You've got to be the booking agent. You've got to be the marketing person. And I ended up just starting designing my own flyers in Photoshop, like really badly, like really, really badly.
I'll start somewhere.
Yeah. But in the early days was very self-taught. So a lot of the stuff I would do was, I was doing posters in Word or Paint or something like that to market myself.
Nice.
But then at some point I felt like I wanted to transition a little bit more into design, because I'd actually picked up a little bit of side work from a design perspective, but it wasn't and I still felt I was missing some of the fundamentals. So my first foray into like higher education was I went to Shillington. Do you know Shillington College?
Yep.
Graphic design.
Yep, I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I jumped into brand. So I did they have an amazing 3-month visual design. I think it's a certificate of design. So I did that, very intense, like all day, every day for 3 months nonstop. So I did that, a lot of sleepless nights, well worth the money though. And that really gave me the good baseline foundations to kind of take what I was doing before and put a little bit of structure to it. And then from there, went into working in brand design. That's where I ended up at Goodlife Health Clubs. And then as I moved, doing a little bit more digital stuff, started to, again, self-taught, play around with tools like Sketch and whatnot. I mean, if we went all the way back, I could say I was a developer recoding my MySpace pages back in the day.
Yeah. The OG days.
The OG days.
Adding a background.
Yeah, adding a background, trying to move stuff around the page, make my top friends look good.
I'm there with you. I remember that.
Yeah, we were all there. And then, when I moved more so as I moved it from sort of more generalist design into UI design and into full stack product, general assembly. So I did a 6-week intensive at GA for UX, as well as a ton of things on, YouTube videos. I read a lot of articles. And then from there, what else have I done over the years? Did some courses with Reforge in product management as well, just to kind of expand some skills there. And even the most recent thing I did was the DMBA course, which is a business design course. So it's the business side of design. So more around the numbers and the viability of solutions, which was kind of almost that middle ground between product and design. Like, if we build this thing, what does it actually do? Is it worth building? That kind of stuff. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Lots of like different like immersives, and 3 months is probably, it felt like a long time, I'm sure, but like shorter-ish courses compared to like a 3 or 4 year degree. Is that something that you would recommend to people wanting to get more into design or tech, or would you do things differently if you had the choice?
I think it worked well for me. I found when it comes to me learning, like there's a sort of structure that works really well for me. So I prefer like in-person content or video content over read material or reading material. Being able to practice and apply quickly within hours or days of learning the thing, worked perfectly for me. So those intensive and immersives, but also too, I think, I've got a little bit of a short attention span at times. So doing those short burst courses, I think they just work well for myself. But everyone's got things that are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried other immersives. Like before I tried design, I went and tried to do a developer boot camp through, I think it was Thinkful many moons ago. But two,
Mhm.
quickly realized that one, I was never going to be a software developer, and two, doing that the way they structure their content wasn't for me because it wasn't visual. It
Mhm.
wasn't delivered in person. It was very you had to read through a lot of stuff before applying things. So
Mhm.
would I do anything differently? Probably not. I think what I liked about the way I approached it was I did little bits and I wasn't committing to like years and then suddenly realizing, which I know a lot of friends have done, they're like, hey, I did this 3-year degree and I don't actually want to do the thing that I studied.
Mhm.
That would really be my advice for anyone is if you're thinking about maybe switching across, taste the rainbow a little bit, like do little bits here. Like these things are becoming quite inexpensive, right? Even Udemy and those places, you can do a
Mhm.
6-hour thing to kind of just taste what it's like what it would be to be a designer or a product manager or a software engineer. So yeah.
I feel like the range of content that is available now, and you can very easily, you're right, even just on YouTube, like get a taste of what it would entail and then kind of make your mind up from there. But yeah, I think as well, it sounds to me like you are very aware with what your learning style is,
Mm,
which I feel like since I, talk to many people on the podcast, it seems like once most people feel like they know how they best learn and how they like engage with any kind of like education learning material, it makes things so much easier because you can kind of streamline how you pick up things and figure out how it works best for you.
mm.
I'm very much a visual person myself, but I do like written over. I'm more of like a reading person more so than what sounds like you are. So that, I mean, and uni was really great for me. I feel like I did really well in a tertiary degree, but also there is definitely some merit in some of those shorter courses as well.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think too, because that experimental approach, you know, do a little bit and then go, okay, well, what's next? What did I learn from that thing that I did, and do I want to continue? Because
Mhm.
you think about like the T-shaped skill set of somebody. Take design as an example, right? So maybe your core competency is like interaction design, like that's your jam. Like you love designing
Mhm.
screens, UI, design systems, but then you do a little bit of user research and maybe you're a little bit on the strategic side. But if in early days, maybe do a short UX research course and a short UI course or a short product, strategy thing, and you kind of work out like which one do I want to dive a bit deeper and become a little bit more of an expert in before trying to be an expert at all of the things and all going down one path and going, you know what? I mean, I get it, I do it, but I don't enjoy it. Or I like doing it, but I don't get it. Those kind of things. I
Mhm.
think that's what I loved about that short form learning is like you get a little bit of a taste for it, you can apply it, and then you realize, you know what, I don't want to do it. Actually, I'd have no joy in doing this thing day to day, and I can focus on the thing that I really want to enjoy. And I think that's super important because if you're going to spend all that time doing something, why bother doing something that you really don't like or really enjoy doing? So
Mhm. I think I respect people a lot more when they actually do realize, oh, actually, that's not what I thought it was going to be, or
exactly.
I don't gel with this as much as what I thought I would. I feel like there's a lot of merit in standing up and saying, well, I was wrong. Move on to the
Yeah.
next thing and not get like super hung up on it and try and keep going with it just because you don't want to say you were wrong.
Yeah, yeah. It's like designing the feature that you realize that actually isn't going to work and continuing to design that. Like, there's just no point
Yep.
because it's not going to work.
It's so much easier just to be like, oh,
Yeah,
my bad.
yeah. Fail fast, right? Fail fast and pivot
Yes.
quickly.
Hmm. I'm curious as well. Was there a particular like a catalyst or a moment in time where you realized, oh yeah, product is where I want to be, or like more technical side of things is where I want to be? Is there like a light bulb moment for you?
I mean, design in general. This is a really, really weird one. So, the transition in design came when I was actually living in Thailand.
Cool.
one summer,
How many countries have you lived in?
not as many. I sound a lot more travel than I am actually. So a mate of mine was running a nightclub in Thailand, and he was like, "Hey, I need a DJ for the summer. Do you want to come?" And I went over there and I met all of these digital nomads, and that was the kind of catalyst into design. I was like, this could give me a lot more flexibility with what I want to do, so I'm going to go and try and do that. And going forward into like product design, I think what I realized at one point was, I mean, I love brand and I see the value in that as part of the product, right? Branding, marketing, all those things. Absolutely love it because you're designing communication, you're designing a story, but so much of it just gets chucked in the bin. You design a flyer and it's like, hey, someone read it and it just gets chucked away. So I think as I realized, like, hey, I can design this thing that evolves and changes over time, and you can learn quickly if it's not going to work and move to the next thing, and it can grow. I think that's really what drove me to moving into more in the digital space, because, like I said, I loved designing what I was designing, but it just, you know what I mean, like their products evolve over time. A flyer is a flyer, and then it's not a flyer, or a brand is a brand, and it can continue through time, but then maybe that didn't work, and there's all this throwaway stuff in there. So I think that was one of the kind of drivers, but I guess also the impact too, like moving into something that was really changing people's lives. I mean, the brand stuff I was doing was definitely life changing because there was a lot around like people's health. But yeah, the digital products, like, hey, you could save someone time that allowed them to spend more time with their family, or somebody that has some kind of disability or challenge and just made their life a little bit easier. I think that's the impact, the potential impact that digital products can bring, especially like these days. Like, there's an app for everything, right? And an app for everything to make you better or your life better or make things easier for you, especially if you're having a really tough or average time. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is like more of like the print and traditional design that you were doing was great, but also you felt like it was used and then it was done. Where you're right, like the digital design is so much more of an iterative process where it's constantly improving and constantly figuring out new problems and then solving them at the same time. It's like, yeah, it's growing.
Yeah, the products grow over time. So that said, though, like I thoroughly enjoyed the stuff I did from a brand perspective, because that's a lot more storytelling. I found on that side of
Yeah.
things, where this is more like functional things that people use as an extension of themselves rather than reading a story. And I think that's the kind of, just obsessed with productivity and all those kind of things. So I just, yeah, thoroughly enjoy it.
Oh, nice. And I guess is that that storytelling piece and that problem solving piece, is that one of the main motivations for you in your career, or do you have anything else that really lights you up and inspires you?
Yeah, I think from a work perspective, like delivering that impact to those people in some way, shape, or form. It's people that I work with, the people that we're helping, like, think differently or do something differently. And maybe they choose to do it that way or they don't, or delivering that something to the person, the end user, right? That goes, wow, or like, oh, I'm so much more less stressed, or, my life's a little bit easier. What else lights me up? I mean, my family does, right? I've got a dad with two very, very young kids, and my my son's actually started saying this thing. He never gives me an answer, but he goes, "I've got an idea." And I love hearing him say that because as a product designer, I'm like, "What's the idea?" But he never tells me. I don't know if he knows what that word actually means.
Oh, that's so sweet. You must have picked it up from somewhere.
Yeah, probably for me. I'm probably constantly telling my partner about different ideas. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, God, just there's so many different things. Like, yeah, I think at the moment, the just seeing the impact, of the work we do and the positive change, especially when you get to work on something that is really helping people that are having a really tough time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's what really kind of gets me going. But seeing people have a great experience, like, designers, we create experiences,
Mhm.
and people getting joy out of using those things, whether it's to save time or to make them happier or make them less sad.
Mhm. My next question is sometimes a bit of an interesting one. I'm curious if you have any like major challenges or speed bumps throughout your time, throughout your career. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Oh God. Earlier in my career, maybe a couple of examples. Like, one was working on a product. We'd run our user research, and then we're like 4 or 5 weeks into development, and then suddenly this new person appears, and we're like, yeah, we've been working on something like that similar, and then all of a sudden you're like, how did I miss that? How did I not realize
Mm-hmm.
that? Or talking to one set of users about a particular problem, and then someone explaining that it's not actually as much of a problem as you think it is. Definitely earlier in my career, had a couple of light bulb moments there. Where it was like, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. But you need to learn from those experiences, because at that moment in time, especially when it's you and other people, you've made a decision. You made the decision with the information that you had on hand, and you did what you did with what you knew at the time. Like that's the retro saying, like, you did the best you could with the
Yeah.
information that you had in front of you. But those are gut wrenching moments, especially when you're working with other people's money to build something, right? You're like, oh my god, how did I miss that? But you got to learn from those things, because it happens, and I know a lot of people that it's happened to, where I was chatting to someone. This isn't my story, but another friend. I can't remember the company they're working for, but they were building a product, and then someone else in the company, like, this was a massive organization, there was another team building the same thing. Like, and
Oh
so
no.
they're like in the middle of building this thing. So there's these stakeholders that are not sort of communicating as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you just got to learn from those things and kind of do a bit of a retrospective and go, okay, well, what did I do that kind of maybe would have changed the path?
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be willing to learn and embrace those frustrating moments, those gut wrenching moments. Like, what did I do? Where could I have done better? And not stew on it, because I mean, no one died. You just had to learn, and you just had to, you pivoted. Luckily, it wasn't 3 years worth of work before we found that thing out. It was only weeks.
Thank God. I
Yeah,
know
thank
that would
you.
have been mortifying. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's something, and it is something that you do learn over time, right? Is realizing that, as soon as you kind of uncover a mistake or realize that, something's not right here, it's so much better just to rip the band-aid off in that moment and just like acknowledge it, and you're right, move on, pivot, instead of trying to push it, because yeah, that's very counterproductive.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, no, you're right. I think another example too was, I was talking to someone about this the other day. I was working on a product, and I was very opinionated about a particular part of the design, about a particular interaction.
Mhm.
The other members of the team were like, hey, no, we think that's going to work this way. And I was like, nah, I'm the designer. I know best. This is how it works on all my other apps. This is how it is, and we're going to do it. And, I was right. Like, the users got it, but the the problem that it caused was, like, the other team was like, I didn't feel like I was being heard. You weren't listening to our opinions, and I had this moment where I was like, I know I got the design right, but actually what I got wrong was the people side of the work.
Yeah.
I think one of the learnings was, like, you could be so opinionated about your thing, and you're right, but you're still going to go and validate it with users. But other people have opinions too, and they need to be heard, and also they need to see that what they thought was not the right approach too, because there's a learning in that itself. So yeah, I think I learned quite quickly then was, you need to make sure everyone feels included, and that create that inclusive environment, and that psychological safety where everyone can contribute and feel heard.
Mhm.
Because it was actually, like, the product was very successful, but my relationship with other team members was tarnished a little bit because of that. So learn very quickly to make
Mhm.
sure that, yeah, let everyone be heard. And if you need to go and test something with users because someone really feels strongly about it, then that's okay. Because you might be wrong yourself. Don't be too opinionated, even though you might
Mhm.
think you're right. You can always be wrong. So yeah, be humble in that respect. I think
Mhm.
that's super important for everyone, not just designers.
Yeah, I feel like that's applicable to lots of other jobs. Let the data speak for itself, and
Yes.
yeah, yeah, love that. So, is there anything that you like to do regularly for like productivity or self care, especially at the moment when I'm sure that you're very busy?
At the moment, like, probably one of the biggest thing that I'm prioritizing, or biggest things I'm prioritizing, is just my health. I find that because my work, most people that work in this industry, it's very brain intensive, right? Thinking intensive. And the thing that helps that the most is exercise. And I sort of went through a period where that was deprioritized, and maybe not by choice. It was just, I had to choose the things, a couple of young kids. But that's probably one of the biggest things, like the self care, because it helps my motivation and my productivity. So finding time during the day to move my body, maybe meditate, just discovered this awesome app called Open that I've been trying out. There's like breath work and meditation, and especially sitting at my desk and like making sure my body is not stiff at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So yeah, really trying to
Yeah.
prioritize that, because I know when I'm not prioritizing that, things become stressful or just a little bit overwhelming at times. So I think that's one thing I've noticed,
Mhm.
that, you know, having, if I can have a meeting while I'm walking, like a walk and talk with, for some meetings, like, hey, let's get on the phone and get outside. Or
Mhm.
can I sneak in that 10 minutes between those two meetings? Can I get on the floor and like, do some hip stretches or something like that? So just making sure that I can do that in there. And that just feeds into motivation and productivity, I think. Like, it just creates that space.
Yeah.
Very cliche, but it's so true.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason why it's a cliche, right? Is because it is important and it does work. And I guess you being a dad with a young family, I'm assuming that takes up most of your spare time. But is there anything else that you like to do on your days off or get up to?
I mean, if the camera could be tilted that way, you would see like this massive shelf of records that I've collected over the last 20 years,
Nice. I mean, yeah, as a DJ.
which I'm trying to cull at the moment. So I've got my record player and my speaker set up just to the side here, and so I've been going through and I'm like, is this a forever one? Do I want to hand this down to my son or my daughter, or do I just want to like give it to the record store? So that's actually been the
Mhm.
thing I've been doing the most, is just like going through my record collection and trying to cull. Also, because it's just taking up so much space in my office.
I know. It's a blessing and a curse at how big records are.
I know they're beautiful, and like I've got some on my wall that I'm trying to convert into art and stuff like that. So, but trying to do that. But I mean, my kids are little, and it's like a really fun time with them. So just trying to spend as much time with them as possible, especially while I've got this really nice long break. With my paternity leave off work, so you're getting lots of cuddles. My son's he's a nightmare, but the funnest thing on the planet at the moment. Like, he's just so much fun. So yeah, trying to spend heaps of time with him and my partner and my daughter. So yeah,
Yeah, quality time. Love
quality
that.
time. Yeah, yeah.
I also love to chat to people about some of like the content that they consume. Is there any like really great podcasts that you love, or books or blogs or any kind of thought leaders that you follow?
Going on the kind of health self-care, I just actually subscribe to YouTube Premium, which is amazing. Like, there's so much really good content on there, and God, I've forgotten his name off the top of my head. I've just started watching all of his podcasts, but he just talks about like human evolution and like physical productivity and all the different things that you can do to kind of be that superhuman. So I've been getting
Yep.
into those kind of things, like learning about like the best type of exercise, the best time of day to do it, rituals and routines. Been really getting like a lot of stuff around there, like building like, what does my morning look like? What does an ideal morning look like? So I've been listening to a few of those, and I've actually been watching a lot of David Bland's stuff again. So he did a lot of work with like value proposition design, business model generation, and I can't remember. I can never pronounce his name right. But the guy said, the business model canvas. He does a lot of really nice, interesting short videos about like, stuff that I'm familiar with, but it's just nice hearing stuff other people talk about it, like assumptions mapping workshops and all those kind of things, like work stuff again. Like, my partner always says, read some fiction, like get away from
Yeah.
the workbook.
I know there's usually lots of people that I talk to either are in consume lots of like design rated related or tech or work related things, or you're the complete opposite and you just want to switch off, and lots of fiction and lots of, things just to switch off. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's
No.
just like what you prefer.
Yeah, you just go through like different stages. So yeah, I think
Mm.
I've been doing a lot more like more health stuff. But I mean, if you asked me 6 months ago, I would have been like, you should see my Kindle. There's like 15, half finished books, which is
Yeah.
fine, because you don't need to read them in a linear fashion. But yeah, there's a whole mix of things that I've been listening to. Lots of music, lots of down tempo music, lots of chill stuff, just to kind of keep the energy down with two wild children.
Yes. I think that's probably well needed. I guess you mentioned that you listen to some like thought leaders and like business minded people when you're on YouTube, but did you throughout your career, have you had any mentors that you like found really influential to your career?
I think I've been really lucky over the years, like, and my last few roles, or my managers, have all been just absolutely amazing. Like, really, really, like, I haven't. I mean, I've talked to a few friends and like, oh, my boss is just so mean, or they're just, a power or poor or a pain, right? But I think I've been really, really blessed. My manager Tamara, who I work with, is like absolutely amazing, like a really extensive PM background, leadership background, and I feel like every day I spend with her, or every minute I spend with her, I learn something new or something amazing. And the way we work together is great. Even before that, when I was at another consultancy, Arc, my manager there, Hannah, she's over at Spotify now. We're mates. We rarely talk about work. We just talk about life. But yeah, she was just an absolute great mentor, and really was the one that pushed me further down into product design, and was like, we need to really give this a good solid go. And even before that, Jay, like my boss, just I don't know, I've managed to find that my mentors have also become really strong. Really, they're friends. They're not mentors. They're just mates. And I think I've been really lucky with that respect. So yeah, I've managed to, everywhere I go, someone amazing that I get to work with teaches me something new and becomes a friend. So
How wholesome.
yeah, I know it is. I feel like I'm getting emotional here, but they're all just really good people, like high emotional intelligence. They're just really, really just good energy, and I think we
Yeah.
feed off that together. So that's been really good, really, really good.
A good manager is just so influential on not only your career, but your mindset towards learning and picking new things up, and being open to new ideas as well. If you can like see people who are like superior in like the career sense to your role, picking new things up and them being open-minded, it just allows everyone else to do the same. So it sounds like that's been your experience too.
Yeah, it's like those people that I get to work with, no matter like as I go, they've gone up the people chain, or I've gone up the people chain, they're still the same. Like there's still that good person in there that's just like, and the best bit is like when you teach them something as well, they're like, thank you for sharing that thing with me, which is great. It's like, and it's a two-way, it's a nice equal relationship. So yeah.
And I would love to end the podcast with my favorite question that I love to ask all of my guests, is that if you were to give your younger self some career advice, what would that be?
I think I touched on it before. Run little experiments, try little things before diving too deep into it. Especially when you've got big grand ideas, or you want to, this, I'm going to be this, like just experiment with it a little bit. Probably talk to other people too. I think that's probably one thing that I wish I'd done a little bit earlier on was, talk to people that do the thing that you're thinking about doing. Try and connect with people that, if you're wanting to get into design, go and talk to like 10 designers, 5 designers, run around a user research, like have that conversation so you can really understand like what bits they love, what bits they don't love, so you can kind of get that insight. And that applies for anything, right? If you want to be an accountant, go and talk to some accountants. Getting that feedback loop with people that are doing it, and a range of people that have just started it versus people that have been doing it for a long time, I think that would be super helpful. That's probably the main thing that I would tell myself. I mean, I've always, like, you can kind of tell in my tone, like I'm a pretty fun, easygoing person. Maybe that's come across. I don't know. But yeah, like stay humble and just have fun as much as you can. Like there's going to be some jobs that are, it's hard to have fun because it's so intense or serious or life dependent on you being, but have as much fun as you can, because you spend 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, where, whatever it is, doing this thing, have fun doing it, because life's too short to do something or spend your days not having fun, or at least being able to walk away going, that was tough, but that was, it was still fun and challenging. So I think that would be the two things that I would say is, talk to other people, try a few different things, and enjoy yourself along the ride.
Love that. Tied up in a neat little bow. I'm sure you meant to do that.
In quotation marks. Yeah, something like that.
Oh, thank you so much. No, I definitely learnt a lot during this chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks
and
for having me.
Can't wait to see what else you get up to with your current role and when you get back.
Thank you, and keep making this amazing podcast. I've watched and listened to a few of them, and they're really, really great. And I think there's so many amazing people in the industry that can just share little bits, like those little snippets that might help someone else. So yeah, keep doing it. It's really, really great.
That's the aim.
Thanks for listening to my long-winded stories today.
No, thanks for telling it.